He struggled through youth, suffered addiction, and even missed his daughter's birth. And yet, Jelly Roll's story is as inspirational as it is tragic. It's a sad fact that some people's early lives set them up for success, while others deal with barriers that make it difficult to even lead a stable life. Jelly Roll didn't grow up with the privileges many Americans take for granted, and because of his upbringing, he felt he had few options as a youngster. The singer was raised in Antioch, a rural part of Tennessee outside of the Nashville area, where opportunities were limited. In an interview with GQ, Jelly recalled his mother's struggle with drug addiction. He added, "I just remember everybody doing drugs. I was in my 20s before I realized that having a drug addict in your family wasn't normal." Jelly's father sold meat and ran a bookie business on the side, but the income wasn't enough to provide him and his 3 older half-siblings with their needs. In recent interviews, he has admitted that he didn't realize how poor he was until later, even referring to his childhood home as a shack. Seeing those around him scrambling to make ends meet and bending the law to do so made Jelly feel like his only means of survival was criminality. As he later told CBS News, "I knew my father booked bets. I knew my mother struggled with drugs, so to me, this was just what you did." Jelly Roll's dad had been married a number of times, so his parents divorcing when he was 13 likely came as little shock. Jelly remained with his mom, and he was quickly forced to take on the role of provider. He later told Billboard, "I felt this need to take care of my mother back then. When he left, I was like, somebody's got to do what he was doing, at least trying to figure out some money." This is what first led Jelly into a life of crime, which began with dealing drugs. Drugs were an ever-present factor in the singer's life, as he witnessed his mother's drug usage and mental health conditions as a young child.
She never left that room, and if she did, she'd come down to the kitchen. That was a big day, man.
When she did emerge from her room, Jelly's mom would put on a record and draw in a crowd, and this is what first made Jelly love music.
I spent my whole life writing songs for her.
It wasn't long after his parents' divorce that Jelly Roll landed himself in handcuffs. His first arrest came when he was only 14, and he was in and out of juvenile detention for the next handful of years. During this period, Jelly only spent a total of 60 or 70 days in high school. During these years, he was convinced that he was, in his own words, learning disabled. In an interview with People magazine, he said, "The darkest moments of my life still were being that 15-year-old scared kid spending Thanksgiving away from his family." Due to his own experiences, Jelly has since been committed to making life better for those who are incarcerated. In 2022, he even donated a recording studio to the Davidson County Juvenile Detention Center, the same detention center he was in as a teen. Though he started making music at 9 or 10, it was in juvenile detention that Jelly honed his writing skills and developed a passion for rapping. Jelly Roll's first arrest did little to curb his lawless activity, and he went on to be arrested about 40 more times over the next decade. His list of crimes included drug possession, drug dealing, and violations of his probation. He was also convicted on charges of aggravated robbery, for which he was tried as an adult despite being 16 at the time of the crime. He later told Billboard, "I never want to overlook the fact that it was a heinous crime. This is a grown man looking back at a 16-year-old kid that made the worst decision that he could have made in life. And people could have got hurt, and by the grace of God, thankfully, nobody did." Still, Jelly has questioned the way he was handled in court. He was sentenced to 18 months for the offense, but at one point, prosecutors were threatening up to 20 years behind bars. He added, "I hadn't hit my last growth spurt. I was charged as an adult years before I could buy a beer, lease an apartment, get a pack of cigarettes. I feel like the justice system at that point kind of parked me on my only set path." Because of this felony conviction, Jelly's right to vote was taken from him before he even reached voting age. He also cannot possess a firearm, volunteer at most nonprofit organizations, or enter some countries. Jelly Roll was 23 years old and serving time for dealing crack cocaine when a previous girlfriend gave birth to his daughter, Bailee Ann, in 2008. Becoming a parent was a turning point for Jelly. After Bailee was born, Jelly transferred to the education unit in his jail and earned his GED. The singer met 2-year-old Bailee upon his release and has not returned to jail since. In a 2023 interview with People magazine, he said, "Being a father is so important to me. The single most impactful event of my entire life was having my daughter. It changed everything." Because Bailee's mother has gone through her own sobriety journey, Jelly Roll's first child has lived with him full-time since 2016. 8 years after having his daughter, Jelly welcomed his son with another girlfriend, Noah Buddy. That same month, the singer married podcast host like Bunny XO, whom he met at one of his shows in Las Vegas. A lot less is known about Noah, as Jelly generally works around him appearing in photos and videos to respect his mother's wishes. He told Taste of Country, "I never want to step on her toes with what she's doing with him. I want to just respect that boundary."
Who's your favorite, your dad or your sister?
Sister.
I knew it.
Jelly Roll began experimenting with weed at an early age. By the age of 15, the singer had tried a laundry list of drugs, including cocaine, prescription pills, acid, and meth. This early usage, coupled with his mother's addiction and the substance abuse issues that ran rampant in his community, led Jelly to develop his own dependency on drugs. Many of his songs, including his 2020 hit Save Me, detail this darkness in Jelly's past. Speaking about his 2023 album Wits at Chapel, he told The Guardian, "I see myself as a broken man that's trying to put the pieces of the puzzle back together. I looked at the whole experience as a cry for help, and it was heard. The music represents so many people that haven't felt heard." Though he references smokin' and drinkin' in Save Me, Jelly has named cocaine, pain medication, and codeine as his main problem areas. He told Billboard that these drugs had control over his life. In an interview in 2023, for example, Jelly told People magazine that for much of his life, he thought alcohol and cocaine always went hand in hand. He said, "I had to learn that you could drink alcohol without doing cocaine. It took me a long time to learn that. There was a long time where I just assumed when people told me they drank without doing cocaine, I was like, I thought we only drank to do cocaine." Today, however, he only drinks and smokes weed.
And I quit smoking for almost 2 years. Until recently, I started smoking again to cut back on drinking.
Though he has identified himself as a drug addict rather than an alcoholic, Jelly Roll has admitted that alcohol is something he has to be careful not to abuse. The same goes for marijuana, which he not only uses but also sells by way of his company, Bad Apple Cannabis. While Jelly has long been careful to make the distinction that he's not completely sober, he worked hard to stop all other drug use, which he managed without attending rehab. As he told The Guardian, "I had to get rid of the lean, the pills, the cocaine. I didn't have a choice. It was me or them, and I had to learn to love myself." While Jelly enjoys recreational drinking and smoking, he does so mindfully and purposefully, checking in with his emotions and reaching out for help when needed. He explained to People magazine, "If I'm really struggling with thinking of my behavioral pattern, I'll go to a meeting. I just don't necessarily claim to be a part of the program because I respect their work and I would never want to diminish it with some of my actions. But AA has done a lot for me." Jelly Roll has been incredibly forthright about his mental health issues, and especially his experience with bipolar disorder. In a 2021 Instagram post, he wrote, "When I was younger, I was diagnosed with manic depression. I have moments of extreme productivity where I feel like nothing can stop me. I'm full of energy and confidence. Then I have weeks on end where I won't answer my phone or respond to a text message." His music, including his 2020 song Nothing Left at All, has delved into the singer's bouts of depression. His post continued, "Though I smile, joke, and laugh a lot, deep-rooted in me is an unexplainable pain." Because of the way he was raised, it took Jelly Roll a long time to learn how to cope with his issues in a healthier way, such as through writing songs and undergoing treatment. Jelly Roll's ability to be candid with his emotions is what makes him so relatable. This openness shines through his music and his interactions with others. However, Jelly has said he did not cry at all in his youth, which might come as a shock considering he so often sheds a tear in interviews, on stage, and even on TV.
I'm sorry I did that to us, man.
No, please.
And yet, as he told the New York Times, "I didn't cry until I was 34 years old. I can't quit crying now. I'm an empath for people, period." This empathy has helped Jelly better recall his difficult youth, too, and his poignant discussions of grief often hit hard. Having grown up in a place where dying young was not uncommon, Jelly has had much experience with death. He has spoken about burying many friends and publicly mourned the murder of a young man he referred to as a nephew. But nothing has impacted Jelly as much as the death of his father, Buddy DeFord, in 2019. On American Idol, he described this as the most difficult thing he has ever had to deal with. In a tribute post on Facebook, Jelly wrote, "Today, my best friend of 34 years took his last breath. He taught me all men were created equal in the eyes of God. He taught me how to carry myself as a man." Though over 30 of his friends have died due to drug addiction, many people Jelly Roll grew up with are still living difficult lives. This has been a source of conflict for Jelly, who feels a certain level of guilt for having gotten out of the lifestyle into which he was born. He told The Guardian, "I have a phone full of sob stories, guys I knew from the past, and they want $2 grand, $5 grand, a car, a house, so you read them, and it just hurts. The guilt you feel creates a spiral of shame, but it also hurts to separate yourself from these people." Jelly eventually had to change his phone number, cutting off communication with many former friends who were living what he called a certain life. But Jelly has done a lot of good in the world, especially by advocating for at-risk people and communities. For instance, he put $250,000 toward improving life for incarcerated and underserved Nashville youth in 2022. He also released the song She in partnership with Shatterproof, a nonprofit devoted to addiction awareness and crisis support. His 2023 tour raised $590,000 for at-risk youth, and Jelly has even spoken to Congress about the fentanyl crisis. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction or mental health issues, visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.